and never will be. Hands to prayer. Breathe through your nose. Tadasana Namaskara. Namaskara. Namas plus kara. Kara is from the same root as karma and kriya and means action. So you might move your feet to draw your attention in, to take ourselves in towards the center, which is the epicenter, incidentally, which is somewhere that I used to live in Byron Bay in Australia. It's called the epicenter. The center of the center, as it were, the middle of the middle, beyond all polarities. Raise your arms up when you're ready. Release the roots of your neck. Lightly tone your tummy reiteratively. So that means moving in any way you like, whilst drawing the belly in and up to help create buoyancy on the pelvic floor, which in turn nudges energy into that central channel, avoiding the three grrs, gripping, grasping, grabbing. So keep pulling into the midline. This, of course, is one of the defining qualities of Hatha Yoga, physicalization of the central channel work. Lift up high, inhale to lift higher, exhale, bend ankles, knees, and hips. Utthata, again, move in ways that are meditative, aka absorbing. You can move left, you can move right, you can bounce a little if you want to. You can retract an arm or extend an arm. It's not about being able to do whatever you want. It's about doing whatever serves the flow. And that always shows up everywhere. What happens anywhere happens everywhere if it happens anywhere. Inhale, stand up. Exhale, big circle. Back to Tadasana Namaskara. Breathing deep and easy through your nose. Step or jump, up to you. Into a generous stride. Chest lifted, breathing easy. Left toes in, right foot and leg out, turning on the ball of the foot. Breathing through your nose. Focus on the insertion of the psoas major, so the greater trochanter of the femur, the top of the inner thigh of the back leg. And we're going to lean backwards, imagining and feeling this gentle stretch on the psoas, on the back leg, whilst balancing what's happening in the knee joint of the back leg too, which might involve movements of your foot. So intuition is something we should definitely open up to. The inner light, as it were, pratibha in Sanskrit. So I think it's great to spend a while really focused on the inner groin of the back leg and lightly toning the tummy to bring length. Okay, and that's all we're doing with Trikonasana right now. Feet forwards, hands on the hips, breathing through your nose if you can. Deep natural breaths. Back toes turn in. Front foot and leg turns out on the ball of the foot, finishes off the turn on the heel. As far as I've deciphered, it's the only way to guarantee heel to arch alignment, to turn in that manner. Raise up and lean back. So this is a viparita, a reverse. This is viparita trikonasana. Breathing through your nose. Jaw soft. Light tone in the tummy. And focus your attention on the lesser trochanter of the femur, that is the top of the inner thigh. It's a little prominence of bone that serves as an attachment to the psoas and the iliacus. So there's muscles that come up from this, so we can definitely feel and imagine, and that helps us feel that stretch, that lift, that breath. You can definitely feel and imagine. That helps us feel. And breathe and know that what happens to the mind happens to the psoas. So mental attitude, bhavana. Mental attitude makes a difference. Inhaling, coming back, up. Very good. Hands on the hips, breathing through the nose. Turning the back toes in, turning on the ball of the front foot, finishing off the turn on the heel. Heel to arch alignment, double checking. Bending the front knee, but stretching lovingly, calmly into the back leg. taking time to massage the tissues. That means you can let your leg move backward leg, that is, move forwards and backwards by rolling this way and that on the foot, on the back foot, to help massage the same area, the psoas, and of course other muscles like the rectus femoris and so on. And regarding the front leg, some people like to do things like lift the heels or the heel. You've only got one heel on your front leg, can you? Lift your heel if you want, or toes. Some people find that useful, or neither. Useful means integrative. That's the name of our subject. It's called yoga, as you know. Leaning back, raising up. Being mindful not to put excessive pressure onto your leg, but just enough to be able to stretch again through the psoas in the back leg, which is a meditation based on breathing, based on investigation. We could call that swadhyaya. We could categorize that under that umbrella. And then it's all about the breath, it's all about meditation, it's all about integration. Inhaling, coming up. Well done, calmly, turning the feet. Hands can come to the hips while you take deep breaths. That will help widen your chest and lift it, so that facilitates deeper breaths with less effort. Back toes in, front foot and leg out. Heel to arch alignment. Focus your attention on the inner groin of the back leg and bend your front knee. Reach back. Again, this is a viparita pose, a reverse pose. And look up under the armpit. So the focus, there's lots of areas that would be a valid focus, but to start with, let's focus on the space and stretch of the psoas, the space and stretch, both of those together. So that means moving your foot, that means breathing deeply, that means meditating, which means absorption, keeping the jaw passive. Okay. Inhale to ascend. Feet face forwards, hands on the hips, breathe through your nose. 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 deep breaths, turning your back toes in again, turning your front foot and leg out again, heel to arch alignment, deeper breaths. And then again, focus your attention on your inner groin of the back leg, raise up. So we're going to do the self-same stretch again, but this time we will take it through in a moment to Trikonasana. But first spend a bit of time with the light tone on the tummy that keeps the back long, with the investigative movement on the back foot that helps you massage and melt tensions in the inner groin, and with the focus on length and stretch on the what will be the underside of the rib cage when we come into Trikonasana. Inhale, exhale, come into Trikonasana. So it's a pelvic movement, so straight away we're feeling a hamstring stretch. So it's not a bad idea to be calm. And it's a very good idea over time to massage those hamstring muscles, which the best way to do that in this pose is to let the weight move on your front foot, forwards or backwards. That massages the hamstring muscles. But after a while, you can also start bringing tone to your front thigh. Now that's a beautiful thing because it really absorbs what we would normally call ourselves back into its mother field. So we normally call our personality ourselves, or our body ourselves, or our thoughts ourselves. Don't we? I have a thought, oh, that's my thought. It's a good thought, perhaps we're pleased with it. If it's a grumpy thought, we're a bit embarrassed about it, or maybe we believe in the reality of the grumpiness and we blame someone or scold someone. But if you bring your quadriceps, front thigh, over time, honestly, into the pose, that brings what we called previously myself back into its mother field. And that causes a kaivalya, a separation where the consciousness becomes rarefied and seen and clear, no longer muddied into Interdependence, beautiful interdependence. Inhale, come on up. So interdependence is no kind of enemy, it's a friend. Feet forwards, breathing through the nose. So one of the most basic teachings that the Buddha ever gave, in fact, when he was asked, what do you teach? He would say, conditioned co-production, the fact that everything produces everything. Turn your back toes in, front foot and leg out. So everything producing everything means that this sense of separation disappears, this sense of praise and blame disappears, the sense of responsibility, co-responsibility appears. Raise your arm when you're ready. Leaning back into your viparita version, viparita. Breathing through your nose. And then playing. Jaw soft. So playing with that psoas insertion, playing with the holism of it, knowing that the body and the mind are the same thing, and the breath and the universe. That's the mother field. All of those things are part of the mother field. We call it mother field because when you surrender back, it supports, it holds. In a sort of idealized mother version. Inhale, exhale, coming into your Trikonasana. Again, you're going to feel a hamstring stretch, obviously. I don't know why I'm telling you that. You already know that. On the back of your leg. And you don't hold the breath, you let it come and go. You balance and rebalance, which means the weight on your feet, as it changes subtly, can be used to condition the tone of your front thighs, which in turn will release the back thighs. So there's a peacefulness, a flow. Flow is a very popular word in yoga these days, flow yoga and so on. And no bad thing. Flow or vahi is definitely something we want to really surrender to. It should happen in the breath, the mind, and the body. Let's see if we can engage those quadriceps with holistically, not just switching them on rather than off. How do you engage them holistically? Again, the movement of your foot on the floor will condition which part of your leg feels alive. Inhale calmly. Once you learn how to practice yoga, you can stay in poses for ages because they're interesting. Now we're going to walk our feet towards each other. We're going to get ourselves a brick block. Here at the BBC, the Brighton Buddhist Centre, we have cork brick blocks, which I think are super duper. Other kinds of blocks, brick-shaped blocks are available, and whatever one you've got, that's super duper. I love that one. So we're going to put that brick block over on the right side of our mats. You can have it full height or middle height, but if you're not sure, start with full height. And then step the feet apart as before. The outside edge of the block lines up with the outside edge of your foot, and the block is behind your foot. Outside edge of the block lines up with the outside edge of your foot, and the block is behind your foot. And then turn your left toes in, or tootsies, and then turn your right foot and leg out on the ball of the foot. Finish off the turn on the heel, breathe through your nose. Relax if you like relaxing, and play. So relaxing means, instead of worrying that, am I fitting in with someone else's preordained ideals? Relax means that the mother field, you relax back into the mother field, and she dances. That's her. That's part of her knowledge that everything is everything. It's part of her Shakti. Bend your front knee, stretch back into the Viparita. Again, make sure not to put excessive pressure on the outer leg. The medial meniscus, inner cartilage on the knee needs to feel spacious. But do please play. So in Vajrasati Yoga, we have this threefold paradigm, Lila Artha Lakshana, play for the purpose, Artha means purpose, of absorption. Lakshana, check for signs of absorption. When you're absorbed, doubt goes. When you're absorbed, breath opens up because there's no tension created by doubt. When you're absorbed, intuition arises and you just dance with it. Exhaling, we extend down, and yes, you guessed it, to your brick block, which could be lower if you wanted, if you've got long arms and short legs, perhaps. And then optionally raising the arm, optionally raising the back heel. I like to raise the front heel too, but it's a bit tricky, I suppose. And then stretching the arm right the way over and looking up under the armpit. If you did raise the back heel, keep the stretch that you borrowed, the extra length that you borrowed, but bring the heel back down again. Look up under your armpit, breathe through your nose if you can. This is Parsva Konasana. Parsva means side, Kona means corner. And asana, in some texts after the 11th century, sometimes means posture. So it's a meditation, it's an investigation. We're playing moment to moment. We're certainly letting the breath out. Very good. Arm down. I'm coming up with my brick, but if it's too strenuous, then of course you can come back down for it. Turn the feet, place the brick, ready for the second side. Back toes in, front foot and leg on the ball of the foot first until the heel lines up with the arch, and then you finish off the turn on the heel. Heel to arch alignment, breathing through your nose. Jaw soft. Bend your front knee, targeting with the knee the gap between the second and third toe. Stretch back onto your back leg. Stretch up. We're in the Viparita, Parsva Konasana. Again, avoid excessive pressure on the back knee. One way that I do that is to just feel and imagine that there's space in the medial side, the inner side of the knee, and play in ways that conduce to that spaciousness. So paying attention is not only beneficial for the body, but it reabsorbs us back into the mother field. And once that happens, the kaivalya that the Yoga Sutra talks about happens by itself, which is a sort of sense of discernment, seeing one thing clearly from another, no longer muddling one thing from another. Essence nature, which is genderless, ageless, deathless, timeless, free. From prakriti, which is interdependent, dancing, beautiful. Coming down to your block. Any height. Raising the top arm is an option. Sometimes we can't do that for one reason or another. I think it's great to lift the back heel because you get a lot more freedom in that top. If you do, although you do lose a bit of balance, but that makes it more exciting. And then the heel would come down without losing that extra stretch. It's a meditative investigation, moment to moment, with a lot of lila, a lot of play. But the play is not random. The play is not just you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. The play is for absorption, the purpose of it. Okay, coming back up, you can leave the brick on the inhalation. Well done, everyone. Walk your feet towards each other and taking further deep breaths, just shake it off. Now, if you've got two brick blocks, super. You don't have to have brick blocks. You can use regular blocks as well. And if you haven't got any blocks, there's always something at home. Way back in the old days when we first started Zooming, back in the time of the C word, which I can't mention now, but back in the time of the C word, I used to demonstrate with buckets and all sorts of things at home to show you that, you can use anything. From here, we're going to simply bring up our left leg and cross it over the right, like that, which looks kind of quite nice. Reminds me a little bit of Balinese dancing or something, a sort of freeze frame. Forgive my ignorance if that looks nothing like Balinese dancing. I'll ask my daughter-in-law who used to do Balinese dancing. Okay, coming down, breathing through the nose. Now, it's possible that we're going to get everything we need by coming just to the leg and breathing. It's balance, a big stretch. One or two people might feel it's natural to reach for the blocks. Natural. And then movements might come I often oscillate my standing leg to massage my raised leg. Some people might even want to bring their hand to the floor, but this is nothing to do with if you've got an achievement sort of drive in you, which of course, we're all conditioned to achieve more, to be fitter, to be more productive, all of that stuff in that Radiohead poem on OK Computer. If you haven't heard that album, OK Computer, treat yourself. Be ready for a journey. And breathe through your nose. This is all preparation for Ekapadagalavasana, which is actually a balancing pose with the back leg raised. But we're just using this as a meditation, which, remember, the word meditation means absorption. That's what it means. My ideal in each pose is to stay until disintegrated cells are integrated. Until disintegrated cells are integrated. In other words, cells in the muscles that are being told to do something other than this, that are following orders about the future, about the past, they release those orders and surrender back to the mother field, the present moment. So for me, each pose I will happily stay, I'm not going to say a long time, but just the right time, which usually ends up being relatively long. But we're going to come up slow and calm. And calmly placing our foot next to the other. You might want to have a little shimmy shake. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Little shimmy shake in your own way, in the natural way. This word sahaja means spontaneous and natural. When you're ready, obviously the other leg comes up similarly, crossing over the first. And then bending slowly so that none of this goes into your knee. We have to go slow so that it can be absorbed into the hip. And the more it's absorbed into the hip, the less it comes into the knee. And we want none of it to come into the knee at all, not a drop. So if you go too fast, because the knee has less tissue around it, it's more likely to go straight into the knee. It takes longer to work into the thicker, stronger tissue of the hip, all those muscles around the hip. So that's why sometimes you have to move quite slowly. Breathing easy. So as I say, your hands don't have to come to the block. They can come to your shin. And it can be nice to play with it. I'm not going to list all the different variations that one could play with. But just to give a sort of overview of some, you can do things like moving the toes of your standing leg. They could lift and land, or even parts of the foot. You can do things like bending and extending the standing leg. You can do things like twisting the pelvis medially and then back laterally. And there's a whole host of other things too. What matters is the breath. As we want to say in Vajrasattva Yoga, quite commonly, it's all about the breath. It's all about the breath. So serve the breathing processes. Otherwise, you may end up serving conditioned patterns that we falsely identify as me, myself, and I. But we didn't choose those patterns. They're conditioned by where we live, where we were brought up, who our parents were, who their parents were, what gender we are, what culture we live in, what time period we live in, our particular life event. There's so many things that we didn't choose. So rather than serving those samskaras, meditate into integration, and then all samskaras drop away, leaving us in this nirbija samadhi. Okay, coming up, very, very calm. Well done. Give yourself a little, whatever you need, and breathe easy. We're going to take those same 2 blocks. Remember, if you haven't got 2 of these kind of blocks, the other blocks we'll do, we're going to place them facing the midline of the room, unless you're at home or Zooming, and you can place yours facing the midline of your room if you want, but I just don't see any need for it unless you want to. The 2 blocks, or whatever, if you in the past, when I used to Zoom from home only, sometimes I'd use whatever was in the kitchen at the time, kilner jars, I've used those. So we're going to place the foot that's closest to me forwards first. And then the other one steps backwards. You want to be balanced and you want to allow room for your pelvis. So make sure your bare minimum stride is heel to heel. And your maximum stride is hip width. So you can go anywhere between the 2 that helps you balance and helps you turn and allows space for your sacrum, which is the bony plate above your tailbone and beneath your waist. And just standing like this is a really good focus. Keep some tone in the tongue and begin to focus on your psoas of the back leg, the inner groin, and begin to lift up again. So very similar in a way to what we were doing already. So you're lifting up. The tone in the tummy keeps the back long by pulling on the front of the pelvis. So keep that tone. There's a lift in the ribs, there's tone in the tummy. The stretching of the psoas is a meditative element. You can raise your arms up if you want. Stay with the meditative element. Make sure your neck is in line with the spine, energetically speaking. Inhale, exhale, come forwards and down and hands on the bricks and breathe through your nose. Deep, honest, natural, playful. It's the lila element. And the lila element, the playful element, interplays with the investigation element. It's how you investigate. Like, little wolf cubs or something, they play, but that's how they investigate the world, What is this? They play with it. Not just wolf cubs, all creatures, little creatures. Breathe through your nose, jaw soft. Balancing and playing. So playing is a form of investigation. You could do things like lifting the back heel, spreading the back toes. See how that makes your back knee feel. And similarly with the front foot, you can play with the alignment. Now, whichever foot is forwards, the opposite hand, so if it's your right foot forwards, the left hand, if it's the left foot forwards, the right hand, stays on its brick block. Now, you could have it lower if you wanted. I'm going to put mine a bit lower. Stays on its brick block, and then you press and turn. Should mean you're turning to face this way, theoretically. Yeah, it's worked out very, very well. And the other hand goes on your sacrum. This is Parivrita Trikonasana. Don't hold your breath. Let it be a meditation into the breath, an investigation into balance in the present. Moving this way, moving that way. Extending the bottom ribs. Keeping the jaw passive. Jaw soft. Return to your dos bloques. Give yourself a moment to play. I quite like doing things like moving backwards, forwards, lifting the toes, lifting the heel. Very good for the plantar fascia, movement like that. And the plantar fascia conditions what's going on in the rest of the fascia up through the back chain. Leave your brick blocks. Inhale with your chest leading and swap feet which one goes forwards, which one goes backwards. I'm going to turn around. You don't need to do that unless you really want it. And breathe through your nose. So similarly, we're going to stretch the psoas or the iliac psoas. So remember, both those muscles, the iliacus and the psoas, share a muscle insertion in the top of the inner thigh, the lesser trochanter of the femur. And we want to really stretch that. So keep light tone in the tum. Breathe through your nose. Focus on the stretch upwards. But remember, in yoga, it's not just a rich experience, but giving to it. There's only 2 stepping stones. So I wish you could have a copy of my book, but struggling with publishers' stuff. But there's beautiful pictures in there. Beautiful picture by Ollie of illustrating the stepping stone metaphor. And there's just 2 stepping stones. A rich experience, including this stretch of the psoas, and then giving to it. And they take you back into the mother field. Raise the arms up. Keep that tone through your tummy. That's how you keep the lower back muscles, quadratus lumborum, long. By toned, investigative, mindful tone. Keep your neck flowing and relaxed. Inhale. Stretch that psoas. Exhale. Extend forwards. Imagine your back leg being pulled as if you're standing in a stream that's fast flowing in that backwards direction. Pulling your back leg irresistibly and at the same time selflessly. Keep breathing through your nose. The back leg gets pulled irresistibly. You can't help it, sort of thing. The breath must flow, because if there's flow anywhere, there must be flow everywhere. If it's not everywhere, then it's not anywhere. It's just a maya, it's just an illusion, unless it's everywhere. And when you're ready, similarly to before, we're going to twist. So we're going to take the opposite hand to the front leg and keep that on the block. If you want to lower the block, that's fine as well. And then press down, and you should be turning in the opposite way to the way you turned before. This is the Parivrita Trikonasana. Parivrita Trikonasana is a meditation on the goddess, on the mother field. So the mother field is a mother field because she's here, she's now, she's everything. There's nothing that isn't the mother field. We might think she's out there, but no, she's thoughts, she's emotions, she's mountains, she's trees, she's social interactions. She's the migration of birds. She's the wind. Prakriti is, the mother field is everything. And that's because everything in that field affects everything in that field. We know that the fact that humans exist on the earth affects the climate. And we know that the climate affects humans on the earth. We know that the social structures people are born in affect the way they perceive the world and so on. And the way people perceive the world affects social structures. Those of you who can tune in on the long head of the tricep, on the lower arm, bend the elbow a little, re-extend and pull down from the shoulder blade to a point somewhere below the elbow. Very good indeed. Turn to your centered position, both blocks on their full height. Breathe through your nose, come up high on your fingertips, and then all the way up when you're ready. Good job, everyone. Take your blocks, put them at one end of your mat, and push on them in your Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now, there's a Zen saying that doesn't exist, but should do. There's a Zen saying that doesn't exist, and it says, if you don't want your blocks to slip, don't make your blocks slip. Okay. So that's about intention. If I intended the blocks to slip, I would, without even really knowing it, I'd subtly change the angle of my arms and the amount of pressure, and the blocks would be pushed, but I don't want them to do that. So instead, I imagine energy going up through my arms, and I use the blocks in that way to stretch up and back. Heels go back, but not at the expense of the lumbar. The lumbar should flow. The lumbar should have its natural lordosis, its inward curve. Well done, everyone. Walk your hands forwards on your brick blocks until your fingers come over the front edge. That helps the wrists quite a bit. And it's a high kumbhakasana. You breathe through your nose if you can. Make sure your back muscles don't become gripped or hypertonic, so let there be a little flow. Jaw soft, eyes soft. Bring one knee towards its own elbow, and then it goes back again, and the other one comes towards its own elbow, and it goes back again. And then we come to the ever joyful Chaturanga Dandasana. So make sure your blocks are far away enough to allow for your chest. Hover the body just above the floor. Push from there up to Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. With light tone in the tummy, the toes can be tucked under if you want, or pointing back. And having extra long arms really helps these poses. The legs are entirely off the floor. The tummy is completely toned. The breathing is deep, honest, and natural. Drop the knees, come to hands and knees. Catch a deep breath, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 25. And just let the breath flow, 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 flow. When you're ready, come to a kneeling position. You can, of course, put a block between the heels and buttocks, resting one hand atop the other, breathing through your nose. Jaw soft, eyes soft. Allow movement if it comes naturally, like rolling on the shins. You can feel your gastrocnemius muscles and soleus muscles on the back of the legs, on the calves. Getting a massage that really helps them, actually. Keep the breath flowing. Keep the shoulders soft. Keep the brain relaxed. You can feel other muscles, anterior tibialis on the front of the shins. We can feel inside the knees, the popliteus muscles. We can feel the gluteal muscles in the buttocks, and so on. Good. Okay, release your hands. Stretch your legs out. If you're here in the room, turn to the midline. If you're at home, any way you like. If you're me, have a little sip of your drink. Yummy. Thanks, me, for making that for me. Hands behind your head. Breathe through your nose. And that cheerful moment, celebrating my enjoyment of my drink, I'm afraid perhaps feels like it's been entirely dashed now as I ask you to come into Ardha Navasana, which involves toes the same height as the eyes, and perhaps some trembling. You don't have to keep it fixed or stable. Go down. Cross your legs. Oh, well done. Draw the buttock flesh out and back. And lean to the opposite side, to the side you're adjusting. You lean forwards and you adjust out and back. So we're not adjusting out only or back only, it's out and back, diagonal. So there's a sort of diagonal relationship between the way you lean and the buttock adjustment. And the palms face up and the breathing's through the nose. Sukhasana. Su plus ka plus asana. So su is good, ka is space. The root as means to sit, asana itself means a seat. And breathing is nasal. So play and study, lila and svadhyaya. Really aspects of the same experience, play and study. And when we self-study, when we svadhyaya, and what we find is that what we usually are accustomed to calling me, myself, and I is part of the mother field, and that's lovely. It's a lovely thing, you know. It means you give back to her that which is hers. It means that you stop seeing division, you know, and you stop seeing separation, goodies and baddies, and you know, we realize everything's co-created by everything. You know that, you know, individuals that we think of as, you know, baddies, not, you know, bad players in the world who may, of course, have bad conduct, very bad conduct. We should avoid voting for them and things like that. But we should also understand that they are co-created. You know, they didn't create themselves. They've been created by their parents. They've been created by their society. You know, and in some gentle sense, perhaps we all co-create, you know, by polarizing. So breathe deep, breathe honest, see things as they are, respond to things as they are instead of idealizing and then pushing out anything that doesn't fit in with those ideals. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, turn towards me, the side of the room. So this is the Parivrita Sukhasana. Avoid pulling the leg up. Avoid that. Because it indicates either that you're pulling it up, which means you're gripping, grasping, grabbing in that modality, trying to get somewhere other than where you are. And where you are is the vehicle on which we travel. And there's no other vehicle. So if you try and get somewhere other than the way where you are, you're not on any vehicle. You're not traveling anywhere. And also, if the knee is up, it might indicate tension. That indicates a belief that, in a sense of separate I, myself and I, who's doing the pose. And that causes tension because it causes doubt, because the I that we create is usually made out of things that don't match. It's made out of other people's opinions. Other people's opinions vary about you, don't they? Hopefully, most people think you're all right. Some people think you're great. I think you're great. But in the past, some people have said that you're not great. Sometimes the very same people have said at one point that you're great, are the same people that say at another point that you're not great. So those things don't match, do they? Just for a start. Okay, lift and turn. Back to center, pause. Deep breaths, plural. Drop those shoulders. Inhale to lift. Exhale to turn, other direction. So this is why various traditions teach in various ways, like Jainism and the Patanjala Yogaśāstra, aparigraha. Sometimes that's translated as non-possessiveness, which I think is good. Literally not really grasping, aparigraha. And so that can manifest in lifestyle choices. Obviously, Buddhist monks and nuns, they only have 7 requisites, only 7 things that they actually, that are theirs, and that's the 3 robes that they wear. It's their begging bowl, it's needle and thread, and medicinal supplies, and something else that I can't remember, but 7. And then if you're a Jaina practitioner, you just have one robe, one white robe. You might also have your little straining cloth. Can't remember the name of that. Little straining cloth you put over your mouth. Or in another school of Jainism, you don't have anything. You're literally naked, the Digambaras. But in our practice, it's not like that here and now. Aparigraha, means emptying the mind here and now, giving, relaxing, enjoying even the changeableness of the mother moment. Okay, return to center. Take a breath or 2. Stretch out your legs. Make sure you've got a belt nearby. And you can use a block in one of 2 different ways. You can either sit on the block or put a block, or even 2, under your heels. Now, I would suggest that if you're newer to yoga and if your body's a little stiffer, that you sit on a block. If you've been doing yoga a little longer and your body's a little bit more flexible, then you place the block under your heels. Sitting on a block will help turn your pelvis. So if you put your block under your heels and then your pelvis is really far back and there's nothing you can do about it, that's not where it should be. It should be under your bum. But if there's a bit more motion, then putting the block under the heels helps to drop the top of the thighs, so that when that second obstacle to Paschimottanasana, that is compressive resistance, kicks in, it's lessened considerably by the dropping of the thighs. So if you're stiffer, if you've got tensile resistance, then the block under your bum. If you've got more flexibility, if you've got compressive resistance as you come forward, the block under your heels. Take the belt, bring it around the balls of the feet. My feet are currently extremely happy because they are in sunshine. Breathe through your nose. Pull on your belt, lift up your chest, lift up your back. Feel your spine and the central channel as soft. Now let me just reiterate a yogic principle. Everything is everything. Right? And that's a direct quote from Abhinavagupta from the 10th century, great tantric polymath. So in other words, if your spine is to be soft, light, not hard, lifted, fluid, moving, spacious, then the mind must also be light, fluid, spacious, not hard. And so everything is one, and this is something we're very, very familiar with in yoga, and it's this recognition that liberates, because we no longer grip things that are interdependent as if they're independent. And that's it. That's yoga theory in a nutshell. Now, while I've been talking, some people's hamstrings may have released a little, especially if you've added a bit of movement or a bit of tone. And if they do release a little, the pelvis will tilt forwards, and it may be appropriate to walk along the belt. It may not. Sometimes you don't need to walk along the belt at all. And sometimes walking along the belt can really put you off the scent. Sometimes walking along the belt makes you think, I'm supposed to be getting my hands closer to my feet. And that's incorrect. We're supposed to be letting the pelvis release, by releasing the hamstrings at first, and then by dropping the top of the thighs out of the way of the pelvis as it comes forward. Some people might reach the foot just because their legs are short and their arms are long and the torso is long. And that doesn't indicate a better pose, it just indicates long arms on a person or a long torso. Some Hatha texts recommend that we practice this pose every day. Paschimottanasana, also known as Ugrasana. I personally do think it's a very good meditation. Remember the great sage Patanjali says, yoga is empty of grasping. It's empty of grasping. What is it full of? Timelessness. It's full of integration. Leading with the chest is opposed to spend time, I think. Leading with the chest to come up, breathing easy. We're going to lay down on our backs, not corpse pose. We're going to lay down on our backs, taking the belt with us. Got it. And lifting up the feet, holding the strap so it makes a sort of, it's in readiness for the feet. Lift up your head, curl into a little ball and see if you can bring the belt around your feet. And then extend your legs. Urdhva Prasrita Padasana. Urdhva, upwards. Prasrita, stretched out. Padasana, feet. Let your neck relax. Let your lower back relax. Breathe through your nose. Natural, investigative, breath-centered. Movement sometimes happens. Notice if there's excessive tension anywhere. Keep relaxing your neck, relaxing the lumbar. Relaxing the jaw. So steady, stira, but happy and spacious, sukha. And relaxed, staitilya. And focused on the infinite, which means the goddess. We know that because the text describe Prakriti, one of the descriptives is as infinite. So not ending, anta, not ending, ananta. Okay, groovy. Release your feet from the belt, from the strap. Pop your hands behind your head, fingers interlaced. Let me hear you take a deep breath in and out. Take a few of those deep breaths. Lumbar relaxed. Walk your feet close to your bum and then lift your bum up off the floor. And let it move. If you want to shake it, that works for some, or just swaying it. We're just massaging the lower back muscles and stretching the psoas again in a different kind of way. We might move up, we might move down, we might move left, we might move right. We're not recalling how we moved last time or what we think other people move like, but we're moving in a way that's truly bringing us into this moment, back into the mother field. That which got separated has been drawn back in. Lowering yourself back down, breathing through the nose, taking a deep breath. Or 2, releasing your hands from behind your head, rolling onto your side, coming to sit on a brick block, or if that's not comfortable, you can sit any comfortable seated position. Mantra uchara. We're going to send the mantra. Well, we're going to actually we'll do mantra nyasa, not mantra uchara, a mantra placement. So we're going to place the mantra in the heart center. And this is the mantra hum, which is sometimes called the Dhenu Bija. And the Dhenu Bija means the cow seed. But it's actually the sound that apparently, it's supposed to be like the sound that a mother cow makes to bring her babies back to her. And so we're bringing everything back to the mother field, gathering it all in the heart. And this is the nyasa, this is the placement. So we're going to place this mantra hum in the heart by placing our hands at the heart and chanting it together. Take a deep breath in, inhale. Hum. And then more deep breaths come. Gathering back in the mother field via the portal that is in the heart center. The heart center, and anywhere along the central channel, the whole central channel itself is filled with portals. In other words, ways back to the mother field. The mother field is undivided. The mother field is interdependent. The mother field is advaita, not two. Not here's there's goodies, here's there's baddies, here there's success, there's failure. It's not two. It leads to a much more understanding world. Releasing, we're going to come and practice one Saṃketa in Shavasana, so laying on your back. And we're absolutely, perfectly on time. Palms facing up, shoulder blades scooted under, chest buoyant. The one Saṃketa, well actually it's 2 Saṃketas, because laying on your back with your mouth facing the sky is a Saṃketa. Saṃketas are practices that we find in the Dattātreyayogaśāstra. The second Saṃketa we're practicing, apart from laying on our backs with our mouth facing the sky with our limbs loose, is focusing on the vacuity in the central channel, the space, the emptiness in the central channel. So once you're laying on your back, focus on the vacuity, the emptiness in the central channel. There's the portal to the mother field, because the mother field is equanimous. I was listening to the Pali Canon on headphones yesterday, and the Buddha said, it was talking to this grandmother who comes to see him. She's been crying, and he said, "What's up?" And she said, "Well, I've just lost my grandchild. I really loved that grandchild. It's a very sad story." She said, "I just wish I could just have more and more grandchildren." And he said, "Well, that's more and more tears, and that can be confusing." He says, "Over that which is dear, we suffer unless it's confusing. It sounds cold, barbaric almost, but unless we realize that he means picking out this or that, this ideal, my favorite ideal, my standpoint, or this circumstance. If you pick out anything as dear, then you're pushing away other things as not dear." So the mother field is equanimous. She allows everything. She's allowing. And that means that consciousness and releases from its attachment, its identity as anything in particular. Because there's nothing in particular in the field. The field is a field rather than a particle. Obviously, at home, you can, if you have the time, lay longer. But so as not to be tardy, if you need to be on time with this class, maybe you need it to be a 1 hour class, then now would be the time to wiggle your toes and your fingers and to stretch the arms and the legs and to bend the legs and place the feet on the floor before taking an extra deep breath in and out. Then rolling onto your side, facing away from the shrine with knees drawn up. Soften the tummy before calmly and easily rolling back towards the shrine. And very easy, very natural, without haste, bringing yourself up from your side, hands to prayer. And if you agree with this following statement, then you can say Om at the end of the statement to indicate your agreement. May any benefit that we've gained in our acting in this way go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. Om. Thanks as ever for your time. Thank you so much, Roomers, and thank you so much, Zoomers. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Jim. Namaste.
Guys, thanks so much for coming. Load of love. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the sunshine.